adult diagnosis of ADHD. Hello, darling. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Everyone, here we are on Signpost for Living with Dr. Kirsten Hunter, and I'm here with my gorgeous Kristen Coggan. Hello, darling.
How are you?
I'm really good. And this is a bit of a special one for you, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Kristen's...
Putting myself out there.
I love it. I love it.
I'm a bit of an open book, so it's not a huge step for me.
Well, we've just caught up, tonight. We haven't seen each other for a bit because life's been happening. And you bounded through the door and said, oh my gosh, I've got big news for you.
Yes.
Drum roll. And it was da-da-da-da.
I've been verified as having ADHD and have started medication, and it has changed my life.
Life-changing. Diagnosis and medication.
Absolutely.
So everyone, Kristen's been diagnosed with ADHD, has figured out how did you go with the medication? Did it take a long time to play around with it?
No, luckily so there's a history as to how this has come about.
Do tell.
So
can I say I come across a lot of clients who are adults who have skipped this, and they come in and they say, this is what happens with my brain, I'm struggling, and then we bring up the issue of ADHD, and their response is, I didn't know adults had ADHD. I didn't know adults could be diagnosed with ADHD. I didn't know you could medicate adults with ADHD. And I'm like, okay, let's talk, let's happen. So, I'm loving that we're talking about this.
Yes.
Go for it.
Okay, so as you know, my son has thrown a few challenges at his parents and family over the years, and he's a lovely boy, and we could never quite work out what was going on there.
I ridiculously adore him.
And he adores you too. You are one of his most favourite people in the world. And he was diagnosed with ADHD a couple of years ago.
Yep.
So that therefore set me on a path of researching it and learning as much as I could about it to try and understand him and try and help him. And in doing so, I learned a few things about it. I learned that it's hereditary. And I learned that I completely understood what he was going through.
You could relate.
And that possibly I had it as well.
What was that like, that first moment of, me? What? Huh? Like what was it like to kind of, have that thought?
Put two and two together.
Yeah, join the dots.
A bit of a relief.
Right.
A bit of a relief. Because
good news?
Yes. So, because I'd sort of gone through life thinking, well, it's a big long story, but you're struggling all the time. You're masking all the time.
What is it like? What is it like? What is the struggle?
To function and be normal in a normal world, whether it's when you're a kid at school, an adult at work, in your own life or whatever, it just takes so much more energy and effort to get stuff done. So my big thing is being organised and being able to get shit done, basically. And being able to focus. I find it hard to focus.
So maintain your attention on something, follow through with the task.
Yep, and it's massive. The effort is exhausting, and I didn't realise that not everybody's like that.
Wow.
But then I started thinking, and this is all the way growing up, and it's hindsight now, so this is why I can talk about it, and I know I didn't know that this was happening, but you're working so hard all the time to keep up or to mask or to compensate for things that aren't as easy for you as they are for others. So you start doubting yourself and you start thinking you're stupid or you're not as smart as the next person or...
Really?
Yeah, that sort of thing. And one of the things that was a real problem for me was finding the words when I'm trying to speak and trying to say something, being frightened that I would lose the words
because they'll run away before you can grab them and use them.
Yep. That's why sometimes ADHD people interrupt all the time because they get a thought in their head, they've got to say it now because it could be gone in 2 seconds.
Really?
So you can't trust yourself. So when you're going to doing your podcasts was always a little bit of an adrenaline rush because I didn't quite know if I was going to be able to speak and say.
And I gave you no warning, didn't I?
No, and I never knew. So it was a bit of a rush. Lucky I like to live life on the edge.
Yeah, you like spontaneity, like me.
But you're masking and it's just hard work. It's really hard work. It's like you're treading water or you're trying to walk through water and walk through sand all the time when everybody else is on flat ground.
Wow. So it's just such a hard time because there's so much traffic. Can I just go back for a second? I just want to really clarify this. I might sound like a bit of a douche here, but I love our conversations. I love our brain meshing, which is why I, at the beginning of these podcasts a year ago, I said, hey, Kristen, come be my co-presenter. You know what I mean? I love chewing the fat with you. I love where your brain goes. We just flow beautifully. I'm adequately intelligent, comfortably, and you are very intelligent. My background is IQ testing, you know. So for you to not connect with your intelligence and to think, you know, am I stupid or am I, you know, can I do this? It just really shows that you had so much fog that you were working through that you couldn't tap into your good stuff, and for you to question your capacity.
Yes.
You know, that's so sad because, you know, you're more than capable. You know, you're a very, very bright spark. So
I didn't go to uni because I didn't think I'd be able to.
Really? Really?
Yep.
I mean, it's no trouble not to go to uni, but to not because you didn't think you could when you're clearly bright. Not that you need to be academic to go to uni, actually.
But you know what? Yeah, I can. I just didn't think I'd be capable of it.
Really?
Didn't think I was smart enough.
What was school like for you?
School, I was the kid that I did all right at school, but just. So I was a bit of a under the radar, cruise along, could get by with C's, the odd B occasionally.
What was it like sitting in class? What was it like trying to, you know, do a task, study for exams?
I don't know how to study. I've never been able to. So, yeah, therefore, again, I thought I'd missed something somewhere. I just never studied because I couldn't. I didn't know how to. And I didn't know why. I know now why I couldn't study, because I just can't focus for that long. I couldn't sit still. Yeah. It's not like people who will know me know that I am not overly active. Like, I don't run marathons or go for a jog for something to do. I'm a Netflixer. That's my thing. So I can sit still. That's my happy place. But just constantly off mindfully in different directions all the time. And I'd be looking at the spider web in the corner and I'd be totally focused on that, which would take me off onto another tangent somewhere else, and then realise that I was actually in a class and should be listening. I didn't know how to study. I didn't study. I got through school with, you know, reasonably good marks without studying. And every now and again I'd do exceptionally well at something and blow teachers' minds, because it was something that I either took the pressure off myself with and didn't get too stressed about it, or I was focused on it because I was intensely interested in it.
Yes, I pushed through.
So therefore I would be enjoying the learning.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it was something that was just mamby-pamby, I would be off with the fairies.
I think the tragedy of ADHD is that it's such a difficult condition to diagnose, because, you know, the individual, that's always how their brain has worked. They don't know that that's not the typical. That's
right. I had no idea. I thought everybody was just smarter than me and better than me and more disciplined than me and had more willpower.
It's a little bit like, people who are colourblind don't know they're colourblind until there's some sort of point of comparison and they realise, oh, other people can see colours I can't see. So it's like that. And also the capacity to put language around it, you know, because kids, they just get kind of categorised as, oh, they're just acting up, or they're just, you know, they don't have a work ethic, or, you know, they just they're not interested in school. And of course that can be the case. Or it can be that their brain is not giving them the capacity to concentrate.
And the other thing that goes with it sometimes is being impulsive. So you can be really impulsive. So when you're under pressure and feel like you're about to break, I guess that's when the impulsive behaviour can come out. And so my impulsivity is shopping.
Oh, really?
I'm shocking.
Really?
Just have no self-control, and eating, no self-control.
What does that do for you?
Makes me fat and poor.
No. No, but I mean, when people are eating, we typically dissociate. You know, we put food in our mouth, it's an oral thing, and we zone out, and we kind of have time out from whatever it is that we're stressed about or bored or emotional, and we just zone out, so we dissociate. And we want to keep eating because that keeps the pause button on our headspace. And then when we stop eating, we then kind of come back into the current world. And it's typically the same with shopping. We sort of disappear into that world. So I wonder if you were doing those things as a coping mechanism to zone out.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly,
Super common.
And I get a real rush of having no limits with that stuff.
When you do have limits.
Yeah.
Right.
Like pretending I don't kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, you know, we get a big rush from that, don't we? Yeah. Bit of adrenaline kick.
So I was the kid that was always on their report card said, Kristen could do much better if she paid attention. Kristen
but
gets
that's cut and
distracted.
paste though, isn't it?
Yeah, Kristen gets, that sort of stuff. So, and you asked before about the medication. How did that go?
Yeah.
Getting back to my son having it, he was then medicated. So I had a bit of an idea, and the psychiatrist who I worked with him, and we just went on the same thing and trialled the dosage. It was the dosage that we had to play with rather than the actual medication.
Because you usually start on a low dose, don't you? And then you just kind of like take it up, and then there's a point where you go, no, that's good, take it down.
Yeah, there was a day where I did about 15 hours straight on the computer, got so much shit done, like did more shit than what I've done in the last year. Was super full on, and I thought, this might be a little bit too intense.
A bit too
I
much.
dropped that back a bit.
Hey, I don't have ADHD, but I do spend time talking to people about how they describe it. Can I throw to you some of the things people have said to me? And I want to hear how you describe it.
Yep, okay.
So I want people who don't have ADHD to understand what it's like to be in the brain of someone with ADHD, and people who do have ADHD out there to go, that's how my brain is. Maybe I can get a bit of help. And then I want to talk about whether to medicate or not. Can we come back to that?
Sure.
It's a good one. Okay, so I had one gorgeous lady who said to me, life-changing, it's like I was in a windy room and it was so windy I couldn't think, I couldn't listen.
Yes.
And then the room was quiet. Mm-hmm. Yeah?
Yeah, completely get that.
I routinely have kids describe it as spaghetti. So they say to me, it's like my brain is full of spaghetti and the spaghetti's all mushed up and it goes in all different directions. So when I start a thought, I can't finish it because there's so much other spaghetti. And when I take my medication, it makes the spaghetti straight. And I can start with a thought and I can end with a thought. That's what they say to me. And I'm like, that's beautiful, right?
Yes.
I've had one other person say to me, it's like all these arrows were coming at me and the arrows were thoughts. And so I couldn't kind of follow one arrow. And after the medication, I would have just one arrow. And so I could follow that one arrow. So that's kind of the language. I'm seeing a pattern.
Yes. So I would say that it's like my head was so noisy beforehand. Take the medication, there's not as much noise. Or there's like, instead of having what I'm trying to be doing is a movie and I can see in my head what I'm trying to be doing or what I'm concentrating on. There's 100 movies all going at once and they've all got their volume up and everything's going full on.
Must be
and the
so
medication,
difficult.
I'm back to one movie, so I can focus. So I was having trouble even just remembering stuff. I was forgetting stuff all the time, like, oh, I got Alzheimer's, like, what's going on? Like, and my work colleagues would tell me something. I'd be given a task to do. Yep, I'll do that, no problems, put my hand up. And then just completely forget about it, even though I had a note written next to my keyboard to do it. Like, just
have you seen that
like
movie
that.
Up, the kids' movie Up? You know, Squirrel.
Yes,
the dog's like squirrel,
yeah.
and he's just like, I'm going over here now.
Yep. So it's just that whole analogy of so much going on in your head and it being too busy, and then it just stops and straightens out. Is I can completely relate to that.
Absolutely.
So you can imagine if you've got that much noise in your head and you think it's normal. How tiring that is and how distracting that is and how sapping that is of everything.
I kind of think of it as if I need to get work done and I've got the family around me and they're all kind of talking at me or they're all making noise or there's technology and I've got to work and I'm like...
And multiply that by 1,000 then.
Get out of my face, people. I need to focus. I need to concentrate. Yeah. So just traffic, a lot of traffic. Yeah.
And I was a bit like Dory off Nemo, you know, just, what's over there? Oh, what's over there? That's a pretty thing. That like it was if something could just distract me.
Wow. So it really is a mechanical issue, isn't it? The mechanics of the brain not lining up. And, you know, with adults who, you know, joining the dots, you know, we talk about, hey, I really do think that you're sounding like you might have ADHD. Have you thought about it? And they go, oh, funny that, you know, all my kids have it. That sort of conversation. And then they go along to their psychiatrist, which you need in Australia, and you get a diagnosis and you get a script to try the medication. And it's not really until they have the medication that they go, yes, I do have ADHD. You know, the medication confirms the diagnosis. Yes. And I don't think people understand that. I think they think you have to kind of be 100% sure of the diagnosis first before the medication. And yes, you do have to feel confident, but the medication kind of confirms that diagnosis. Because if you do not have ADHD, the medication will not have that effect.
Yes. And I felt the effect within the first day.
Yeah. I had one grandma come in and say, oh, I've got ADHD. And I'm like, oh, okay, talk to me. And I said, how do you know? And she said, I took my child's medication and my brain worked. What can we do about this now? And I'm like, well, you went backwards in that process and illegal. But anyway, let's talk.
Yeah, so that's why I think I'm so pleased that we got my son's diagnosis when we did, and that we trialled the medication because it gave him a chance. It's like being able to breathe when you haven't been able to breathe.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just am, and he's still now, it's up to him whether he takes his medication or not.
Because just to clarify everybody, ADHD medication is a bit like taking Panadol and Nurofen. It's short acting, kicks in, lasts for that period of time of the day, and then it kicks out. It's not something that kind of builds up over time like an anti-anxiety or antidepressant. So the decision to say I'm going to take medication today or not is up to you. And a lot of kids will take medication during their school days, Monday to Friday, to assist with their learning, but on the weekends they won't. Sometimes because the medication can get in the way of their appetite and because the parents just feel more comfortable with that. It's kind of interesting to look at that.
And my son now, he's old enough to make his own decisions. I can't make him do anything, and he takes his medication still and tells me when he needs another script filled. Yeah. So to me, he can feel the difference.
Yeah. And can I say something that, like, you know, just frontline kind of stuff. When you go to a psychologist in session, it's not likely the psychologist will see the ADHD. You can't see it.
No.
I have had some clients where the hyperactivity is very evident, or you know, there has been issue with almost having thought disorder, where they're not able to take a thought and follow it through in their conversation, in which case it's kind of obvious. But most people with ADHD, you can't see it, you know. And so with children, as an example, if you're going to diagnose ADHD, it's very much based on assessment in the classroom and assessment from the parent. It's not based on what's said in the psychologist or the psychiatrist room, because you can't see it. It really is, how do you function day in, day out? So don't go along to your psychologist, have a chat with them and think the psychologist will pick it up. They won't, unless it's screamingly obvious with the hyperactivity. You know, you have to actually say, this is how my brain works. This is how I struggle. And then the psychologist will know, because if you're in session and you're communicating adequately and you're following the stream of conversation, you're not going to know. So I think that a lot of people come to a psychologist, they don't know to mention it, because how would they know? Or they think that they take kind of like a medical model where you sit back and let the professional kind of ask the questions, and the psychiatrist won't know.
And I think too, some people are reluctant because there is a stigma around it, and those things, like from, you know, like what people and the world understands and thinks of ADHD now is different to what it was 10 years ago as to what it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think ADHD had a really tragic introduction to the world, because the response was, oh my gosh, there's this overdiagnosis, everyone's ADHD. I actually don't know what was going on. I wasn't really around then. But it's not overdiagnosed. If the medication doesn't help you, you don't have it. So it can't be overdiagnosed. You know, so there's a real kind of myth there. I have some parents that come along and say, I don't want to label my child. Yawn. Or they say, I don't want to medicate my child. And you know what? If you have a broken arm, we're going to say you have a broken arm. Let's fix it. It's not there's no stigma around it. It's an issue to address. So if your brain has the mechanics so that the thoughts are not kind of flowing through and you're able to work with them, it's a functional reality. It's not a stigma issue. It's just communicating facts, you know.
But it was always associated with bad behaviour. And that sort of thing. And
there was a lot of bad labelling.
The
naughty kid.
And I think that's hung around, and it does affect some people. And I like this analogy, and you can correct me if I'm wrong.
You're assuming I know. Keep going.
But I'm the one with the conditions. I'm the expert here.
You go.
No. So I like the analogy of explaining it. It's like Apple phones and Android phones.
You've already lost me. Keep going.
They do the same thing, but they have different operating systems.
Okay.
So someone with ADHD, their brain just works in a different way to someone who doesn't. But it works, doesn't it?
It does work.
And if you've got a case on the phone, you can't tell what sort of phone it is.
Okay. Yes, I'm following you.
Are you?
I am following. It doesn't resonate with me, to be honest, but I'm with you. I'm following you. It works for you. And probably everyone else but me.
Yes.
I get it. It's different wiring.
Yeah.
And you can't tell from the outset.
No,
totally
that's it. And it still works. It just works differently.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's the point.
And what do you think when parents say, I don't like to medicate my child, so I don't want to give them medication for ADHD?
Breaks my heart, because it's like you're holding them back. You are giving them a disadvantage. It's worth the crack. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it's not right, stop it.
Yeah.
But give it a crack. Give it a chance, because it could just
be life-changing.
I can't explain. Like you said before, that you wouldn't let your kid with a broken leg get around and just, no, I'm not going to treat that, because I think if you've got a cast on there, you might miss out on something, or people might think differently about you, or it might do something. You know, just give it a chance.
And, you know, just on a really practical level, the kids are going to school to use their brain to learn. If their brain is not functioning to be able to concentrate, retain thoughts, how the hell are they supposed to learn? You know, it's really, really cruel if they're not, and it's not a level playing field, is it? They're dramatically at a disadvantage.
Now that I understand and looking at it with hindsight and insight, you know, like my poor son, my poor son, there's nothing poor about him, but he had behavioural issues. We had issues at school. I think he's missed out on a lot of opportunities and a lot of learning because I wasn't aware. And if we could have started medication earlier, I do wonder if his outcome for school for him would have been different. And he would have got more out of the experience.
Well, you're not alone. A lot of people look back and think, damn, I wish I had figured this out earlier. Yeah, definitely. But it's so easy to miss.
Oh, yeah.
I really think the place where diagnosis can happen the best is at schools, because the teacher has that capacity to compare you know, the child with their peers, with their capacity to concentrate and apply themselves. They're in the real world learning setting, and that's when you see it. You know, and parents, they absolutely have that exposure to the child at home, but they don't have the same educational reference
the same
point.
way.
No, it's not learning.
No.
And also they're not education based. They're not.
No.
You know, it might be their first child. They don't know what's typical.
Oh, see, and that's what happened to us. And I just thought we had this naughty kid that was out of control.
Yeah.
And I just needed him to be in control.
Yeah.
Didn't realise why he wasn't.
Well, you know how they
it's
do.
Not that he was out of control, completely running amok. But
you know, at schools they have screening with, you know, hearing with vision and stuff. I think they should have screening for ADHD.
Completely.
But there's a bit of a move against that, I would guess, because people are, I think there's that sort of leftover carry-on of what if there's overdiagnosis.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. And can I just say, I have had children who do not have ADHD with parents who have wanted to just sort of like label medicate the child and park them, and meanwhile they're very passive in their parenting and very dysfunctional, and the child doesn't have ADHD. They do not respond to the medication, and the parents are left with, well, you need to parent, these are issues, these are behavioural issues, And so it does go that way as well, but not very often.
Oh, and knowledge is power. Like if you know, there's so much you can do to help and assist. And even just little things. Like I used to give Cam a sandbag. Like he's got a few sensory things that go on with it. He used to have a heavy sandbag that sat on his lap at school that helped him calm down and sit still and focus. And he liked that. Like he would use it. So there's other little, it's not just all about medication either. There's other, it's just knowledge is power. The more you know, the more you can help and be aware of things.
Absolutely. So lovely people listening, if anyone does have their brain and you feel like it's the storm and you feel like there's lots of open tabs and there's lots of movies playing.
And arrows and spaghetti.
This is not,
and all of it.
this is not good enough. Hey.
Yeah.
And go to the GP, get a referral to a psychiatrist, have a conversation and see whether or not, if it is ADHD, and if so, then you owe yourself to get on top of it so that your brain is working for you, not against you. And how much easier does life get?
It is so much easier.
What's it like for you now that you've got this sorted?
It's
bit dangerous, I'm guessing.
It's a little bit dangerous. It's a little bit euphoric.
We're joking, right? It's not dangerous. It's really good.
No, it's euphoric even because I've got confidence again in myself and my abilities, and I'm achieving things and getting stuff done and kicking goals, and
life's
just
so much easier.
Even little things like being able to organise myself to get the shopping done and remember everything on the list and stuff.
Day in, day out stuff.
Yeah.
And big stuff.
It's everything.
And confidence, how good is that?
Yes.
Which, of course, is a massive foundation issue for, avoiding anxiety and depression, which are huge other areas.
Yeah, there's a whole nother story with that I could go into, but that'll be another podcast.
To be continued.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming along. I appreciate you going to do spiel.
Here we go. Spiel, everyone. Webpage.
And apparently you have to ask people to subscribe.
Yes, which let me get to it.
Okay.
I'm driving this bus. Webpage.
Truck. You can drive trucks too, can't you?
I can. KirstenHunterAuthor.com. Facebook, Kirsten Hunter Author. Instagram, Kirsten Hunter Author. Isn't that a surprise? Her Twitter handle is Kirsten Hunter AU. YouTube channel is Psych in Your Car. And the best bit, is Signpost for Living with Dr. Kirsten Hunter.
And Kristen Coggan.
On occasion, when you're lucky. And you need to subscribe.
Yes.
Please.
And ask us anything you want us to talk about that's psychology-based.
Email.
Is it email or you just
I don't know, can we email?
Yes,
go to the webpage and...
I think you can write a comment at the bottom of the podcast.
See, how good are we? Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, okay. Maybe write to us and tell us how it works. All right, everybody. Take care. See you.
Bye.